By the end of this lesson, you will be able to spot the moment a team is solving the wrong problem with confidence, slow down a neat but weak explanation, and make a recommendation that holds up in a real review room. This is the Module 2 Case Lab. It is not a new concept lesson. Every tool you need is already in your hands. The problem definition canvas, the symptom cause constraint separation, the root cause ladder, MECE thinking, and the issue tree. This lesson is where you use all of them at once on a single messy situation that is already in motion. No clean setup, no signposted answers, just a real feeling business problem. And the diagnostic question of whether you can find what is actually driving it before the room commits to the wrong fix. That is what a case lab is. Not a test of memory, a test of judgment under pressure. A room is about to make an expensive mistake, and nobody in it knows it yet.
It is 4:40 p.m. in a bank product review. The head of digital is frustrated. The app onboarding flow has already been redesigned twice in 6 months. The product team is convinced the issue is friction in the first session journey. Marketing wants a fresh campaign. Operations says branch staff are not fully aligned. The country director wants one answer before tomorrow's executive committee. The number on the screen is simple and ugly. Current activation rate, 31%. Down from 44% 2 quarters ago, a 13-point fall with no clear explanation the room agrees on. App Store rating after redesign, 4.4, up from 3.8. The experience improved. The outcome did not. That gap is the clue nobody in the room has named yet. Everyone in that room is talking about the app. Almost nobody is talking about what happens after the app, or about who is arriving at it, through which channel, under what conditions, incentivized by what. The room has converged on the most visible surface and is about to approve another redesign of something that may not be the problem at all.
That is how good teams walk straight into a false fix. Not through carelessness, through pressure, pattern, and the deeply human tendency to look hardest at the thing you can see and fix the thing you can control. When you frame a decline around the most visible surface, you burn time, money, and credibility in the same move. The costs of a false fix are not just operational, they are reputational, and the damage accumulates quietly until it becomes visible all at once. You redesign what was never truly broken. The metric does not move. The team spends another quarter building a case for why the third redesign will work where the first 2 did not. Senior leaders start to feel that the team can describe activity, but cannot diagnose reality. That feeling hardens quietly until the day it affects who gets brought into the harder rooms. While the room debates symptoms, the real driver keeps compounding. By the time someone names it, 6 months of budget and credibility have already been spent on the wrong level. Promotion readiness is not built on effort alone. It is built on whether people trust you to name the real problem before the room commits to the wrong answer. That is a different standard, and this case is where you practice meeting it. Most teams do not fail because they cannot solve problems. They fail because they solve the wrong problem with impressive energy. A visible decline is not yet a defined problem. It is only a signal. The drop from 44% to 31% tells you something is wrong. It does not yet tell you where in the system the failure is occurring, which cause is driving it, or what the highest leverage intervention would be. Strong thinkers do not rush from signal to solution. They pause long enough to ask 3 questions the room usually skips. What exactly is failing? Where in the chain is it failing? And what evidence actually says this is the real lever, not just the most available one? The shift is from activation is down, so the onboarding UX must be weak, to activation is down, at which step for which customer type, under which channel conditions, and what changed around the process, not just inside the product. That is the move from reacting to thinking, and it is a move that takes discipline, not genius. 4 moves matter here, and most reactive teams skip them in the order that matters. First, isolate the symptom. Precisely. What exactly is happening, and what is the metric telling us? Name the symptom in neutral language before attaching any cause. Activation is at 31%, down from 44%, is a symptom. The onboarding experience is failing, is already a theory. These are not the same sentence, and treating them as interchangeable is where the false fix begins. Second, locate the break point in the system. At what stage in the chain does performance actually drop, and for whom? Do not talk about the whole journey if the leak is at one specific point. Break the blended metric by channel, segment, or stage. A single blended number often contains multiple different problems. Treating it as one uniform issue is how the wrong fix gets approved. Third, test alternative causes before attaching a solution. What evidence supports the current theory, and what evidence would weaken it? Not just what could explain this, but what would distinguish one explanation from another? This stops the room from treating confidence as proof. The current theory may be plausible. Plausible is not the same as evidenced. Fourth, check for structural conflict. What incentive, handoff, constraint, or channel dynamic could be quietly overpowering the official process? Many business problems survive because incentives or handoffs quietly overpower what the process is designed to do. The official process says one thing, the operating reality does another. Until that gap is named, no product fix will be enough.
There is a simple pressure moment tool you can use in the room. What is the exact symptom? Name the metric movement clearly and specifically. Not performance is weak, but which metric? By how much? Over what period? Compared to what baseline? Where in the chain does the drop actually happen? Do not discuss the whole journey if the leak sits at one specific point. Cut the metric by channel, segment, acquisition source, or stage before deciding what is broken. What evidence supports the current theory, and what would weaken it? This is the question that stops the room from treating confidence as proof. If the theory cannot be tested or challenged, it has not yet earned the right to drive a fix. What structural force could be overpowering the visible design? Incentives, channel conflict, policy, handoff friction, hierarchy, timing. The most durable business problems survive because something structural keeps producing them, regardless of what the product team changes on the surface. Now, let's move into the case. Amaka is a product manager at a retail bank. Her team owns digital onboarding for a new youth account. Over 2 quarters, the App Store rating climbed from 3.8 to 4.4 after a cleaner onboarding redesign. Completion time dropped from 11 minutes to 7. The experience, by every visible measure, improved. Activation did not improve. It stayed flat, then fell. What the room concluded was understandable. The executive story quickly became, the journey still has friction. We need another redesign. App ratings up, activation still low. The logical inference is that the product needs more work. It is also, as Amaka is about to show, wrong. Amaka does not challenge the conclusion directly. She does not say, I disagree. She asks for one cut of the funnel the room has not seen. She wants activation broken down by acquisition channel. That single request, disciplined, specific, low drama, is the most powerful move in the case. For in-app acquired customers, activation is 52%. These are customers who started and finished entirely in-app. They activated at more than half. The product is working for this group. For branch-acquired customers, activation is 19%. These are customers acquired through branches.
They activated at less than 1 in 5, and this group was becoming a larger share of total new volume. The blended activation rate was masking two completely different problems. In-app customers were activating at 52%. The product for customers who came through digital was working. The decline was concentrated almost entirely in branch-originated accounts, and the branch share of new volume was growing.
This is the moment MECE thinking and issue tree logic from Module 2 become visible in practice. A blended metric treated as a single problem produced the wrong diagnosis. Segmented, it reveals a structural issue that no amount of UX redesign will fix. Amaka then asks what changed in the branch environment around the time activation began falling. The answer is uncomfortable. A regional sales push had increased branch targets for account openings. Staff were incentivized on opened accounts, not on whether customers completed digital activation. The neat product story was wrong. The decline was not mainly a product design problem. It was a channel incentive conflict wearing a UX costume. The strongest move was not genius. It was segmentation. The team was not irrational. From where they were looking at a blended activation number after a design improvement that objectively raised ratings and reduced completion time, their conclusion made sense. The information they had pointed toward more UX work. The information they did not have pointed somewhere else entirely, Anley. The key insight about this case is not simply find the root cause. That is too vague. The strongest move was finding the point where the official product story stopped matching the operating reality. Once Amaka segmented the metric, the mismatch became visible. And once the mismatch was visible, a different and more powerful explanation became possible. Here is the full diagnostic chain in plain language. The symptom was activation falling from 44% to 31% over 2 quarters. That is what is visibly happening. Real, measurable, urgent. Not yet a diagnosis.
The loud theory was onboarding friction. The journey still has too many steps. Plausible, supported by the visible surface. Not yet supported by evidence that rules out alternatives. The hidden tension was channel conflict. Branch-originated accounts activating at 19% versus 52% in-app. Invisible in the blended metric. Only visible after segmentation. The most important cut of data in the whole case. The structural driver was that branch incentives reward account opening, not digital activation completion. The system is working exactly as it was designed to, just not in alignment with the product outcome. This will keep producing the same result until the incentive structure changes. The wrong path would have been a third onboarding redesign. It would improve app ratings. It would not move the activation rate, because the activation gap is not inside the app for this customer cohort. The stronger response is to fix the branch to digital handoff and align incentives to completed activation. That addresses the structural driver, and it should be paired with a controlled test before any further product investment is approved. Pause here and think before jumping to the recommendation. What was the visible symptom, and how was it being described by the room? What was the attractive but weak explanation, and why did it feel credible? What single diagnostic cut changed the case, and why did it matter? What was the structural driver, and why would a product fix not reach it? If you were in this room, what would you recommend first, and why? Now let's move to what a stronger recommendation actually sounds like. A strong recommendation in this case is not redesign or do not redesign. It is anchored in what the diagnosis actually supports, and it names both what to do and what to test before committing further. Here is the recommendation.
Do not approve a third onboarding redesign as the primary intervention yet. The evidence shows the decline is concentrated in branch-originated accounts, not in the in-app experience itself. We should fix the branch-to-digital activation handoff, align branch incentives to completed activation rather than account opening alone, and run a controlled test before investing further in product changes. If the branch cohort activation rate moves, we will know the driver was structural. If it does not, we have new evidence that points us toward a different branch of the issue tree. That recommendation is stronger for 3 specific reasons. It is anchored in diagnosis, not motion. It names the intervention at the right level of the problem, and it defines what evidence will tell the team whether they got it right, which means the next decision is already built into this one. That is what executive-grade reasoning sounds like. Not certainty, structured, testable judgment. This is what that sounds like in practice. Before we redesign again, I want to see where the drop is actually happening. By channel, by segment, by acquisition path. We may be treating one blended metric as one problem when it is at least 2. The app may not be the cause. It may be the surface where another conflict shows up. If the journey improved but the outcome did not, we should test whether the constraint sits outside the interface.
The question is not what fix is available. The question is what mechanism is driving the miss. I am not against the proposed fix. I am saying the diagnosis has not yet earned it. What would have to be true for the current explanation to be wrong? Here is the action to carry into your next performance or product review. The next time someone says, "We already know the issue," and a single explanation is taking over the room early, take this exact action. Ask for one diagnostic cut of the metric that separates the problem by channel, segment, stage, or handoff point before any solution is approved. You do not need to challenge the conclusion directly. You do not need to sound difficult. You just need to ask for the cut that the room has not seen yet. Then notice what happens. Does the room become clearer, more defensive, or more precise? That reaction will tell you how strongly the original story was being protected, and whether the diagnosis had actually been done, or whether it had simply been accepted because it arrived first.
Now let's close the module. When you entered this module, you met a team staring at 31% activation and planning a third redesign. You have now seen that same situation through 5 different diagnostic lenses and arrived at a fundamentally different recommendation than the room would have reached without that discipline. You defined the problem precisely before solving it. You separated its layers without collapsing them. You walked the ladder to the structural driver. You built a clean structure that stopped the analysis from leaking. You mapped the problem into branches that could be investigated independently. And in this lesson, you applied all of that under pressure to a situation that was already in motion, already politically loaded, already heading toward a false fix. The professional who does this well does not just think differently. They change the quality of the decisions the room makes, quietly, consistently, without needing to dominate the conversation. They ask the cut nobody asked for. They name the tension nobody named. They anchor the recommendation in diagnosis, not motion. That is the professional Module 2 is designed to build, and you are now equipped to be that person. In the next messy meeting, the next escalation, the next review where the easy answer arrives early and everyone is about to agree with it.
A visible problem is not always a located problem. If effort has moved, but the outcome has not, the real driver may sit elsewhere. Do not fix the surface until you have tested the structure beneath it. And as you leave this case lab, take these questions with you. When a metric drops in your work, what type of explanation do you usually reach for first? And what makes that explanation feel credible, even before it has been tested?
What blended metric in your current environment may actually contain two or more different problems? What single cut of the data would tell you? Where could incentives, handoffs, or channel conflict be quietly shaping results in your organization, underneath a story that sounds cleaner than it is? Looking back at the full Module 2 journey, what is the one diagnostic habit that would most change how you show up in a review, escalation, or strategy room?